Okay, so here we are in, I got CPU Z and Task Manager. We can see there's 32 gigabytes of DDR3 RAM, i7-2600K, and a GeForce GTX 970. So here we have the CPU. You can see it's running at around 4.5 gigahertz with a mainboard DP67BG, 32 gigabytes of DDR3 yet again. Just gonna do a stress test so you can see the voltage. It's around 1.33 to 1.34 to almost 5. It depends on workload. Here we have tech power-ups, GPU Z, also GTX 970 with the latest drivers, which is not actually a game driver, it's more of a security driver. Again, here on the bottom right we have the overclocking of the i7-2600K. As you can see here, we have processor overrides, and you can see the settings there. And at the top we have the overclock on the GPU, which is power unlimited with a +60 and a +70 on the memory. Just stress test it. It's 1452 megahertz and 3570 megahertz on the memory. So it's quite a good overclock because this card is already overclocked. So now we're jumping into NVIDIA app just to see the Windows version, which should be 25H2 for Windows 11. Just go here, you can see the driver yet again. It's just a security update driver, it's not a game ready driver, because that was dropped last year. You can see 1080p monitor. And finally the rig, there it is, Windows 11. And that's about it. So let's just jump into the game. Okay, so here we have the game. I'm gonna first test it with the highest performance I can get out of this system without it looking extremely bad. You can see I've got ultra performance FSR enabled at 1080p, very low settings. So this is the lowest I'll probably go for this, because anything lower than this is like 720p with FSR won't be nice. As you can see, we have Forza Horizon 6, very low 1080p. We are playing now around 60. Yeah, around 60 FPS, but you need to remember I am recording, so you'll need to look at the numbers on the right. The numbers on the left, which is this updating currently through what you call it, MSI Afterburner, and those numbers are affected by recording. So we got 75 average FPS, 1% low of 53.2 FPS, and 0.1% low of 37.7 FPS. There's an issue with the game in the beginning because I ran out of streaming data. That can be due to the hard drive or CPU. Since this is an old CPU, you will have that issue during compilation, I think. But you will get playable frame rates afterwards. I haven't ran into it again, except for going into ultra settings. I presume that's harder to run. So okay, now we're going to do it without FSR. We're just going to enable TAA because some people prefer to not use FSR. Okay, so go out. It's still very low settings, 1080p, but this time we're gonna have 58 average FPS and 47 1% low and 36.1% low. I'm currently hovering around 50 FPS in this area. It's not a particularly demanding. You need to remember that during races it might be more demanding, about 5 to 10 FPS more demanding, because a bunch of vehicles that you're racing against might impact performance a bit. So that's it for the very low 1080p with no upscaling and TAA enabled. And now another thing I did was I ran it first on a hard drive, not SSD, and that was barely playable. In my opinion, you should not play with a hard drive. You need to have at least an SATA SSD. you might want to, if you have two SATA SSDs, you could RAID 0 it for even more drive performance, because it would benefit a bit. That's what I did with this two drives. I had two 250 gig SSDs, so I RAID 0'd them for 500 gigs high performance, but don't put any important data on there. Okay, next up we're gonna do low settings, 1080p, not very low, low settings with no upscaling and TAA enabled. You can see we're on very low here. Going to low. Let me just apply this. There we go. Now, when you go to high settings, it might crash, but low settings, it's fine. Okay, here we go. So this time we have an average frame rate of 50 FPS or 49.7 FPS, 1% low of 42 FPS, and 0.1% low of 32.6. So you could say 33 FPS. And you can see it's running quite well here. There's no issues. Except in tunnels it might drop suddenly a bit and then it's going to rise up in FPS. And for instance, rainy weather or nighttime versus daytime might also have a slight impact on performance, but it's not much. The foresty areas, if you drive through those, it might also have a greater impact on performance. But overall, still playable. I mean, this is a 15-year-old computer playing a AAA title that's on PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and S. I'm not sure if it's actually on PlayStation 5. Maybe just Xbox. But I presumed it was on PlayStation as well. But hey, if it's not, I don't know. But PC definitely, it's running on PC, so that's pretty cool. So that's it for low settings. Okay, next up we have medium settings, where we're still on the same resolution, FSR off, TAA off, but we're going to the medium settings with no upscaling. This is going to be impressive if it works. Okay, I'm going to apply. I had tested it before with ultra settings, but it did crash, but I got it running again. But medium still works fine for just switching without crashing. And this time you can see we have dropped below 60 FPS definitely here, and but it's still playable. It's not a bad experience considering the hardware. You need to always consider hardware. Hardware this age should not be able to play these type of games at medium settings. I mean, the GTX 970 is quite old. It released in 2014. That's like 13 years ago. Now the average frame rate is 44 FPS, 43.8, and 1% low frame rate of 35.7, and a 0.1% low of 28.1. So your 0.1% lows are dropping below 30, which will have some impact on. You might feel a little bit of stutters, but it's overall still smooth, all things considered. Now the CPU is overclocked, so remember, if you're gonna play games like these, you might need to overclock your CPU, as well as disable Spectrum Meltdown, and overclock your GPU, and don't run a lot of programs in the background. But that's the way it is for these old PCs, so you might do that and get some extra performance, because older hardware can't handle all the new things as easily as it did back then. So just optimize your PC. But otherwise, it would run fine. I mean, 44 FPS average on medium settings. I didn't even expect it would run medium settings. But that's it for medium settings. Not bad at all. Okay, so now we're going to high settings 1080p with no TAA or upscale with TAA but no upscaling. As for the graphics performance, you might, if you have this old hardware, you might have a crash. I'm just gonna, if it crashes, I'm gonna relaunch it and continue the video from there. Okay, it did not crash. Okay, that's good. Okay, so here we are. It's hovering in the high 30s, low 40s. You can expect that range here. So there it is, 40 FPS, 39. But it's, I mean, high settings, 1080p, no upscaling. What did the developers do? They really, they are surprising me with this optimization. The game might have other issues, but performance is not one of them. This is really, really great. I mean, if every developer can optimize like this, nobody would have complaints, would they? For instance, other games I had played before, maybe games like Black Myth Wukong or other Unreal Engine games, great games, but the performance are so bad. As you can see, we have 37 FPS average and 29.9 FPS 1% lows and 0.1% lows of 24.8 FPS. So that's it for the high settings in Forza Horizon. They really did some magic here with performance. I can't complain at all. Yes, 30 FPS is not a great experience, but what do you expect? This hardware is way older than most old hardware is at this point. I mean, 15-year-old hardware. If you tried playing with 15-year-old hardware back in 2010, you wouldn't be doing anything. You wouldn't even have the capability of running Windows, let alone the latest Windows and latest AAA title. So that's amazing. So now we're gonna go and jump onto ultra settings. That this one might crash, so let's just jump into that. Okay, so we're going on to ultra settings. I did not show the settings, but as you can see, this is unplayable. 18.6 FPS average, 1% low of 15.1 and 0.1% low of 6 FPS. I do not recommend you play on ultra settings. It did crash, so that's why I jumped in so abruptly, but it did crash. So if you crash on these settings, you might need to restart the game. Also, you might want to use custom settings and push high settings with a little bit more to just get up to 30 FPS at least. Okay, there you got a streaming data warning. That's the type of thing that happens on ultra settings, like I said before. Okay, now we're going to do 4K very low settings with AMD FSR Balanced. Let's see if this works out. Okay, so we are at least getting around 30 FPS. It's really not bad. I mean, 4K on a GTX 970. Can you believe that? Now the average is 32 FPS. I did do an alternate benchmark. And 32 FPS average on 4K very low settings for a 13-year-old graphics card, 13-year-old graphics card is insane. Now, I'm not saying this is actually very playable, but what I am saying is it is actually working. I really do not recommend you play like this. Maybe just go to 1440p and you'll have at least a little like 5-10 FPS buffer. But I just wanted to test the extreme scenario, and 4K getting over 30 FPS is insane for something this old. The developers did a very good job optimizing Forza Horizon 6. Now there might be drops at random locations. Some locations are more demanding than others, but average of 32 FPS, 0.1% low of 26, and a 1% low of 26 and a 0.1% low of 20.7 FPS or 21 FPS. So capable, but not recommended on playing this resolution of this card. Now the reason I'm testing the GTX 970 here is it's very similar to a GTX 1650. Now the 1650 might have newer drivers and a little bit better performance, or a little bit worse depending on the game. But I do think the 970 is close. It's also a 4 gig card. Well, you can complain. GTX 970 actually has 3.5 gigabytes of VRAM, not actually 4 gigs, because the last 500 megabytes of RAM was lower speed RAM, and I don't think all games actually utilize it correctly. But it seems to be utilizing it here. But yeah, 4K 30 FPS. If you really wanted to do that, you can, but it's really not recommended. That's it for this video. I'm amazed it's working on 15-year-old hardware, like the i7 released back in 2011. 4-core 8-thread CPU and a graphics card that does not even have driver support anymore. It did get a driver update, but it's only security updates, unfortunately. No more game-ready driver updates, but there's only so much you can expect from 10-15-year-old hardware, and this is still very perfect for using. Yeah, I mean, you can't really complain. Well, thank you for watching this video. And let me know down below, what would you recommend I test next on this system? And I'll see you in the next one. And remember, like, comment and subscribe, please. And if you want to, you can also join as a member. You get early access to other videos and so on. Well, thank you and goodbye.